Alright, so first of all, what we're going to obviously want to do is open up our editing software. What we're going to be using for this tutorial section is be using Sony Vegas Pro 10, but we're going to be covering all ways of how you can do it with your own editing program if you don't have the same one as us. And also, if there's anything you don't understand, we'll let you know what that effect is, therefore you can search up a tutorial. And there's my mom.
Hello.
Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is be adding the letterboxing. Basically what the letterboxing is the black bars that you see at the bottom and top of the screen, which gives it more of a widescreen cinematic effect, which you'll see in pretty much all action films. I don't think I've ever seen an action film that doesn't have letterboxing. So this is definitely a very crucial step in the creation of making a good looking action film look. Alright, so first of all what we're going to do is select the pan crop button, which is located at the top right of your clip on the timeline. And once that window is open, what you want to do is unselect the lock aspect ratio button. This will make it so you can resize the big F that you see there, so you can add the letterboxing itself. Or you can hold down the control or option key if you're on a Mac to override the aspect ratio and you don't have to unselect it. Now all you need to do is click and drag down from the top of your image and look at the preview window at the bottom right and look and see what you think looks best and stop there. Don't worry if anything is cut off, because I'll explain how we can fix that later on in the tutorial. And after doing that, you'll already notice that it starts to give it a pretty good film look. So now what you can do is reselect the lock aspect ratio button or let go of control if you're holding it. And if you notice that anything was cut off in the image, you can simply click on the big F that you see and use your arrow keys to move it up or down. And you can also drag from the top right corner in if you want to resize it at all. So now what I would definitely recommend doing, you don't have to do this if you don't want, but it'll make your life a lot more easier for the rest of your editing, because you're going to have to add the same letterbox to every single clip, and it'll be very tiresome re-entering those numbers into every single clip. So what you should do is select the bar at the top of the window where it should say Untitled and type in something like letterbox. Then hit the little save button to the right, and after doing that it'll be saved as a preset. And to access that preset when you open up another clip is to go to the same pan crop button, and when it's open you click the little arrow bringing down the menu and select letterbox, and do that to every single clip. That way you'll get the same looking letterbox every time. So now that that's done, we'll actually get into adding the color correction itself. Okay. Now at this point is where the additional plugins I mentioned earlier may come in. You could use the Magic Bullet Mojo effects, which I would definitely recommend investing in because they do give you the best action Hollywood film look out there, and you can really do a lot of amazing things with it. But like I said, I'm going to be using only the built-in presets on your editing software, so you don't have to spend any money. So basically what we are going to be trying to do is imitate the Magic Bullet effects, but changing it around a little bit and show you how you can customize it yourself, as I've said multiple times. So let's get right into it. So let's get right into this. Alright, so once we're in Sony Vegas, the first thing you're going to do is click on the Event Effects button, which is located directly beneath the pan/crop button. The Event Effects button is basically the equivalent to just any adding effect tab that you would see in any other editor, like After Effects. At the top bar there's an effects tab that you open up. It's basically the equivalent to that. And what we're going to be opening up is the Color Corrector Secondary, which is basically a more condensed version than the I forget what it's called, the three different color corrections, high, low, and medium. It's basically condensed into one color corrector, so if your editing program has that, use that. If it doesn't, then you could just use the basic color correction filter. And the second thing we're going to be opening up is brightness and contrast. So to do this is you double click on them in the window that opens up when you hit Event Effects. And the third thing we're going to open up is soft contrast. But if you're using an older version of Vegas, you might not have the option to select soft contrast. So instead of selecting soft contrast, select cookie cutter, and I'll go over how you can get the same effect using cookie cutter as we're going to be getting by using a soft contrast filter. Okay, so now is the point when you're going to want to decide if you want to go for a cool or warm feeling. We're going to be going for a cool action feeling because it's the action look, as I explained earlier, and they go for a more cool feeling. So first of all, before doing anything, uncheck the soft contrast tab, because what the soft contrast tab does is it automatically adds a preset which we don't want, and we'll later remove that, but for now, just for adding everything else, we're just going to have that unchecked, but we will recheck it later. And if you're using a cookie cutter, just select the first link down in the description bar when we do get to the section when we are using soft contrast, and that's how you'll be able to do this effect by using an older version of Sony Vegas. Alright, so first of all, we're going to select the color corrector and secondary tab. So go and click on that. And what we're basically going to be doing with this is giving it a slight desaturated tone and adding the cooler filter. So to do this, we simply drag the little dot from the center of the circle just a bit below the 0 degree line and just a bit to the right of this 270 degree line. It should say something around 304.7 and angle and magnitude 0.253. Now all we're going to do is drag down the saturation to about 6.50. Now for the next effect, we're going to be adding the brightness and contrast filter. So select that tab, and when we get in there, we're really going to get a more film style look by raising the contrast. And as I said earlier, you can save any of these as presets for using. So what we're going to want to do is raise up the contrast. What looked best for us was about 0.25 for this clip, and what you would also want to do, as I said earlier, is lower the brightness, but we couldn't really lower the brightness because of the darkness issue. So we'll leave that at 0 for this, but otherwise you would lower it. And as for the control contrast center, I wouldn't really mess around with that at all unless you want to, but I usually just leave it at 0.5. Okay, so now what we're going to be adding is what's called a vignette. But it's just going to be a slight vignette. What a vignette is basically the slight shading you may notice around the edges of a lot of action films. They usually add this effect. It gives it more of a dramatic feel. And this is the point where we'll be opening up the soft contrast tab. And if you're using an older version of Vegas, you'll have to select the link located down in the description bar. And if you're using any other programs, just search up how to add a vignette in your program. Otherwise, just follow along with what we're about to say. So now what we're going to do is check the soft contrast tab again, making it so it is active, and bring down all of the levels that you see in the effects tab in the actual soft contrast filter itself. Bring all of those levels down to 0. Now select the vignette tab and select exterior effect menu and click black. Now lower it to about 79.15. Now select the vignette shape menu and click ellipse. And for the last step, simply drag up both the softness, width, and height bars all the way up, and don't change the X and Y positions at all. So now for the very last section, rendering settings. Now I'm going to leave it up to you what you use as your file type. Personally, I use WMV as my final product because it's small, it looks good, it is a lossy file, but it does keep quite good quality. And whereas AVIs and everything are like crazy huge, and I don't like MP4 files. But I will leave it up to you what you use. So now what you're going to want to do is go to the File tab and Render, or other things might say export to or export. Just look up how to render in your editing software when you do this step, but still follow along with the guidelines that we're about to teach you. So as I said earlier, we'll be selecting WMV, and now this is the most important part. Make sure that you select 24p, whether it be 720p or 1080p. Make sure it still says 24p at the end, or something like 24 progressive, something like that. But if you do not have the capability to render out HD footage because either maybe your computer is not strong enough or your camera isn't 720p or 1080p and it'll just look odd if you render it out at HD, just follow along with this guideline on how to get 24p and basically what would be called the default template selection, or you might choose the 3 megabytes per second. This is if you are using WMV. So now select the custom button, which is located next to where you would have select what you're going to be rendering it out as, which would be after you selected 3 megabytes per second or default template. So once you're in there, go and select the video tab, which is located at the bottom, and then there you'll notice a bar that will say frame rate next to it. Select that bar and put the frame rate at 23.976, I believe, and it'll say something like IVTC film next to it. Then hit OK, name your file, and save it out. So there you have it, a nice professional looking Hollywood action style film look by using nothing but the built-in plugins on your editing software, as I promised at the beginning of this video. So if you like this video, please hit the like button down below and remember to subscribe to be updated when the next video comes out, and leave us a comment saying if you like the show or not. And if you have any requests about anything involving the show or requests for film effects or any comments on the show that you'd like to get us personally at, send us an email at FilmFXRequests@gmail.com. The link will be in the description bar below, also located on the screen right now. So thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to be notified when the next video is up, and have a good day, evening, night, or afternoon, depending on whatever time of day it is. Alright, peace.